The arena of Virel was the heart of the empire. It was carved from black stone that shimmered under the twin suns, and it was large enough to hold thousands of voices that rose and fell like the tide. That day the seats were full. Warriors from many worlds, traders, nobles, and common folk gathered to see the trials of combat. The banners of alien houses hung from the high walls, their colors bright in the air. The ground of the arena was hard and dry, marked by scars of countless battles. Every being present knew that once the gates opened, only strength and courage decided fate. High above the ground sat the royal platform. Upon it the Princess of Virel stood tall. Her silver crown reflected the light and her eyes scanned the gathering with calm pride. She had seen warriors of many races bow before her throne, each hoping to prove themselves. Yet none had impressed her enough. Her people valued power, and she demanded nothing less from those who sought her respect. That day she was not only a ruler but also a judge. The crowd roared as new names were announced, but soon the attention turned to one figure who stood apart. He was not armored like the others. He carried no heavy blade or shield. His name was Aaron, a human from a distant star. Compared to the towering champions around him, his frame looked smaller, his armor simple, his weapon little more than a standard blade. Many in the crowd laughed when they saw him, their voices rising in disbelief. "What is a human doing here?" a voice shouted from the stands. "He will not last a breath," another cried. "He is too weak to stand with the warriors of Virel," came the mocking call of a soldier. Aaron did not answer. He kept his eyes forward, his face calm. The years he had spent training had taught him the value of silence. He knew the laughter of strangers could not shake the focus of a fighter. Then came the moment that silenced all voices. The princess raised her hand and the arena grew quiet. Her voice rang clear across the field. "You all gather here to prove your worth," she said, her words steady. "But I have yet to see one who can stand without faltering. Warriors claim strength, yet they fall. Champions claim honor, yet they fail. I ask now who among you dares to prove more than words?" She let the silence stretch. Then with a sudden motion she turned her gaze upon Aaron, her eyes fixed on the human, and the crowd followed her look. "You," she said, her tone sharp but certain. "Human. If you can win this battle, you win me. If you can prove your strength, courage, and will in this arena, you will earn not only victory but also my loyalty." The air froze. The words struck the crowd like a storm. For a moment there was nothing but silence. Then voices rose in waves of shock and disbelief. "Impossible," shouted a noble. "She cannot mean it," hissed a merchant. "A human cannot claim the princess," cried another. The laughter returned louder than before, but it carried unease. To offer herself in such a way was no small vow. The Princess of Virel was more than a ruler. She was a symbol of her people. If she tied her fate to a challenger, she bound her honor with his. No one had expected her to choose a human. Aaron's heart beat steady. He did not smile or bow. He simply nodded once, his voice carrying clear across the arena. "I accept." The word was simple, but it carried weight. The crowd quieted once more, not with respect, but with shock. No one expected the human to meet the vow with such calm. The princess studied him. There was no fear in his face, no hesitation in his eyes. She had seen countless warriors rush for glory, their pride blinding them. Yet here stood a man who accepted the greatest challenge without trembling. A spark of interest lit in her mind. The signal horn blew and the first gate of the arena began to rise. Dust lifted as chains pulled the iron bars open. From the darkness beyond, the sound of growls echoed. The first trial was coming, but before the beast appeared, the crowd still whispered about the vow. All across the stands, voices questioned, mocked, or worried. Some placed quick wagers on how fast the human would fall. Others wondered if the princess had chosen him to test her people, to see how they would react. No one knew her true reason, but all eyes were locked on the human below. Aaron stretched his shoulders, lifted his blade, and set his stance. He had no illusions about the challenge. He knew he was in a place where his kind was seen as fragile and weak, yet he also knew something others did not. Humans did not win only with strength. They won with heart, with patience, with cleverness. The beast roared as it stepped into the light. Its arms gleamed like sharpened blades, its body covered in scales harder than stone. It towered over Aaron, its eyes burning with hunger. The crowd cheered for the monster, already tasting the human's defeat. The princess leaned forward in her seat, her hands tightening on the railing. This was the beginning of the trial. She had cast her vow into the air. Now the arena itself would decide if the human was worthy of her words. The human stood still, breathing slow. The dust swirled around his boots. The sound of the beast claws scraping the ground filled the air, and the twin suns cast long shadows across the arena floor. The moment was heavy with meaning. The first step of the battle would shape not only the fate of Iran, but also the bond between two worlds. The arena went quiet again, waiting for the clash. The iron gate of the arena clanged open, its chains rattling as if the sound itself carried a warning. From the shadows inside came a deep growl, low at first, then rising like thunder. The crowd leaned forward in their seats, voices falling quiet as the creature emerged. It was massive, a beast shaped for destruction. Its body was covered in dark scales that glistened under the light of the twin suns. Its arms were long and ended in blades sharper than steel. Each step it took shook the ground, its claws scraping sparks from the stone floor. Its eyes, glowing yellow, locked on Aaron, and its jaw opened wide to release a roar that echoed across the arena walls. Many in the crowd cheered for the beast, certain it would tear the human apart. Bets were already being exchanged, hands waving tokens of metal and crystal. The voices carried words of scorn. The human will not last a moment. Look at him, so small, so unprepared. This will be quick. Aaron stood still. His blade was light compared to the monster's weight, his armor plain compared to its natural armor of scale, yet his eyes did not show fear. His breathing was slow, steady. He had faced danger before. He knew that rushing in was a fool's choice. The princess, high above on the royal platform, leaned forward in her seat. Her expression was calm, but her eyes betrayed curiosity. She had seen many warriors charge into battle with pride, only to fall within seconds. The human's stillness was different. He did not waste his energy on false bravado. He waited, watching, studying. The beast lunged, its blade-like arms slashing down toward him. The crowd gasped as the attack came with speed that seemed too fast for such a large body. Aaron stepped aside, rolling across the ground as the strike shattered the stone where he had stood. Dust flew up into the air. The human rose quickly, eyes fixed on the creature. His blade was ready, but he did not strike yet. He knew he could not win with raw power. He had to learn the rhythm of the beast, understand how it moved, and find a way to use that knowledge. The creature roared again, swinging both arms in a wide arc. Aaron ducked low, the wind of the strike brushing past his hair. He slid under its body and struck once at its leg. The blade cut but only scratched the scales. The crowd laughed at the small mark. "Useless," someone shouted. "His weapon cannot pierce it," another said. But the princess saw more. The human had not struck blindly. He had chosen a weak point even if the scales had resisted. He was testing, learning. She rested her chin on her hand, her lips curving slightly in thought. The beast turned, furious at the sting, and charged again. Its arm swung in powerful patterns meant to slice its prey apart. Aaron dodged, ducked, and rolled, always staying one step ahead. Sweat formed on his brow, but his eyes never lost focus. Each movement he made left marks on the ground, small trails of dust that formed a pattern. He was circling, guiding the monster where he wanted it to go. Minutes passed, and the crowd grew restless. They wanted blood, a finish, not this dance. They shouted for the beast to crush him. Yet the human kept moving, his blade striking in short bursts, always at the legs, the joints, the underbelly. Small scratches began to add up, faint lines across the scales. The princess's eyes narrowed. She could see it now. The human was not running in fear. He was setting a trap. The beast grew more furious with each failed strike. Its roars shook the air. Its movements became faster but also less controlled. Aaron breathed hard, his chest rising and falling, but he kept his mind clear. At last, the moment came. The creature raised both arms high, bringing them down with enough force to break stone. Aaron leapt aside, but not away. He dove close, rolling under the beast's chest. His blade flashed as he drove it into the softer scales beneath its neck, the one place he had studied during the fight. The steel cut deep and the beast roared in pain. The crowd gasped, their voices turning from laughter to shock. Blood sprayed across the dust and the monster staggered. Aaron pulled his blade free and leapt back, avoiding a desperate swipe of its arm. The wound was not fatal yet, but it was deep enough to weaken the beast. Now the fight changed. The creature moved slower, its strength bleeding away. Aaron pressed the advantage. He struck again at the same point, each blow cutting deeper into the vulnerable flesh. The monster howled, stumbling, its claws scraping against the stone as it tried to keep balance. With one final strike, Aaron drove his blade deep into the wound. The beast collapsed with a crash that shook the ground. Dust rising in a thick cloud. Silence fell over the arena. The human stood in the haze, his chest heaving, his blade dripping. He did not raise his arms in triumph. He only looked at the fallen creature with steady eyes, then turned his gaze upward to the royal platform. The princess was standing now. For the first time that day, her expression broke into something more than calm. Her eyes shone with a spark of respect. She had expected him to fall quickly like so many before. Instead, he had shown patience, intelligence, and courage. He had fought not with pride, but with purpose. The crowd erupted at last, but it was not laughter anymore. It was shouts of surprise, disbelief, and even admiration. Some cheered for the beast, others for the human. The sound filled the arena like a storm. Aaron lowered his blade and walked slowly to the center of the arena. He did not speak. His silence carried more weight than any words. He had faced the trial and lived. The princess raised her hand and the noise of the crowd lessened. Her voice carried clear across the space. The first trial is complete. The human stands. The announcement echoed and the crowd erupted again, this time louder than before. The name of Aaron spread through the stands. Some spoke it with respect, others with anger, but all knew it now. The gates of the arena closed behind the fallen beast, and servants rushed to clear the field. Aaron sheathed his blade and stood waiting, his face calm. He knew this was only the beginning. The first trial was done, but greater challenges lay ahead. The princess sat once more, her mind racing. She had spoken her vow with pride, certain no human could meet it. Yet here stood one who had. She could not deny the truth before her eyes. A strange feeling stirred in her chest, something she had not expected. She pushed it aside for now, keeping her gaze steady on the man who had just proven the impossible. The arena quieted once more, but the memory of the battle lingered in every corner. The people of Virel had witnessed something they would not forget. The human had survived the first trial, and everyone knew the next test would be even harder. The arena was still buzzing with noise from the first trial. The fall of the beast had shaken the confidence of the crowd. Many had believed no human could survive such a challenge, yet Aaron had stood tall. Now as the dust settled and the field was cleared, the voices of thousands filled the air with new questions. Was it luck, one asked. Perhaps he is faster than he looks, another said. No, the beast was careless, a voice insisted, but others spoke with growing respect. He watched, he studied. He did not fight like a fool. He made the monster fall. That was no accident. On the royal platform, the princess sat silently. Her eyes never left the human. In her heart, she had expected him to fall. She had spoken her vow with confidence, certain the arena would end him quickly. Instead, she had seen something rare. She had seen patience, courage, and intelligence. She leaned forward, her crown catching the light as the gates of the arena began to rise once more. The second trial was not a beast. It was worse in many ways. The great doors opened, and through them came 6 warriors of Virel, tall and strong, their armor glowing with bright lines of energy. Each carried a weapon forged for combat, a staff that burned with plasma, a spear that crackled with light, twin blades that hummed with power. They moved with discipline, their eyes cold, their steps in perfect rhythm. The crowd cheered as they entered. These were not monsters of instinct, but champions trained from birth to fight. Their names were known in the Empire. Together they had ended many challengers. To face one was a test. To face all 6 was meant to be impossible. Aaron tightened his grip on his sword. His weapon looked plain against theirs, almost fragile. His armor was simple, nothing like the glowing plates that covered their bodies. Yet his eyes did not waver. He knew this trial was different. Against the beast, he had used patience and study. Against warriors, he would need speed, cunning, and will. The 6 formed a circle around him, their weapons raised. One of them, taller than the rest, spoke in a deep voice. You are small, human. The beast should have ended you. We will correct the mistake. The others laughed, their voices carrying across the arena. You will not leave this ground standing, another added. Aaron gave no answer. His silence was sharper than any words. The horn sounded and the trial began. The first warrior rushed forward with a spear of glowing light. Aaron shifted to the side, the point missing him by inches. The second came from behind, twin blades cutting through the air. Aaron dropped low, rolling across the ground as sparks flew from the strike. He rose quickly, striking at the legs of the spearman. The blade met armor, sending a sharp sound into the air. The warrior staggered but did not fall. The crowd shouted with excitement. This was no slow duel, but a storm of movement. 6 against 1, light flashing, dust flying, voices roaring. The princess sat with her hands gripping the edge of her seat, her eyes following every move. Aaron knew he could not fight them with strength. He could not block their heavy weapons or match their glowing armor, but he could turn their power against them. When the warrior with twin blades struck again, Aaron stepped aside, letting the force carry the man too far. At that instant, the spearman thrust forward. Instead of meeting Aaron, the spear crashed into his ally. The crowd gasped as sparks flew, and the twin blade warrior stumbled backward. Aaron moved quickly, striking at the spearman's arm. The blow forced the weapon from his grasp, the spear falling to the ground with a clatter. The human picked it up without hesitation, now armed with both blade and light. The other warriors growled in anger, closing in tighter. Aaron kept moving, never standing still. He struck in short bursts, forcing them to clash with each other, using their own size and strength against them. Every mistake they made, he turned to his advantage. Minutes passed, and the battle grew fierce. One warrior fell, then another. The human's movements were quick and precise, each strike placed with care. Sweat ran down his face, his chest burned with effort, but his focus did not break. The crowd no longer laughed. They shouted with shock, with disbelief, with excitement. Many now cheered for the human, their voices rising with each victory. The name Aaron spread like fire across the stands. On the platform, the princess's eyes widened. She had seen warriors fall to these 6 many times, yet never had she seen someone outthink them. The human was not just fighting, he was adapting. Every moment he learned, every strike he grew stronger. She felt her heart beat faster as she watched, though she did not show it. The last of the 6 remained, the tall warrior with a staff of burning plasma. His armor was heavier, his strikes more powerful. Aaron faced him with both sword and stolen spear. The duel was fierce, each blow ringing across the arena. Sparks lit the air as steel met light. The champion roared, swinging the staff with enough force to crush stone. Aaron dodged, his body moving with speed born of desperation. He struck back with the spear, the glowing tip piercing through the armor at last. The tall warrior fell to his knees, his staff slipping from his hands. Aaron stood over him, chest heaving, face marked with dust and sweat. The crowd erupted into thunderous cheers, the noise shaking the walls of the arena. The human had done the impossible. 6 warriors, champions of Virel, lay defeated at his feet. Aaron lowered his weapons, not raising them in triumph. He simply stood, his silence speaking louder than any shout. He looked up toward the royal platform, his eyes meeting the princess's gaze. She rose slowly, her silver crown catching the sun. Her heart was filled with emotions she could not name, pride, respect, and something deeper. She had given her vow in front of all, and now she began to see that the human might truly claim it. The crowd chanted his name again and again. Aaron had not only survived, he had conquered. But in the silence of her heart, the princess knew one truth. The greatest challenge was still to come. The champion of the arena, the undefeated warrior who had never fallen, still waited behind the gates. And that battle would decide everything. The arena floor was stained with dust and marks from the last battle. The bodies of the defeated warriors had been carried away, but their fall still echoed in the minds of the crowd. Never before had a single challenger defeated all 6 at once, and never before had a human stood in such a place of honor and danger. The people of Virel whispered and shouted, their voices carrying a mix of disbelief and excitement. Some still mocked, unwilling to accept what their eyes had seen. Others cheered loudly, calling Aaron's name again and again. For the first time, the crowd of Virel was divided. High on the royal platform, the princess sat straight-backed, her hands pressed to the rail. She had spoken her vow with pride, thinking no one would reach this far. Now she watched the human below, his body tired but unbroken. His sword hung at his side, his eyes still calm, his spirit still steady. She felt her heart stir again, the feeling of respect deepening, though she kept her face composed. The horn blew. The gates of the arena groaned as they opened once more. From the shadow beyond stepped the final trial, the undefeated champion of Virel. He was a giant compared to even the tallest of the warriors who had come before. His armor was thick, layered with plates that glowed faintly with heat. Each step he took left a sound like thunder, his heavy boots striking the stone with power. In his hands he carried a weapon larger than Aaron himself, a massive blade that burned with fire. its edge glowing red like molten metal. The crowd roared at the sight of him. They knew his name, they had seen his victories. He had ended countless challengers, never once falling. His presence was not only power but also legend. To face him was to face certain defeat. The champion raised his sword high, the fire lighting the arena floor. His voice boomed across the space. "You have done what no one thought possible, human, but here it ends. I am the shield of Virel, the blade of its honor. You will not pass me." Aaron did not answer. He only tightened his grip on his weapon, lifting it into guard position. His body was tired, his arms heavy, but his spirit had not broken. He knew this was the final test, the battle that would decide his fate and the meaning of the princess's vow. The horn sounded, and the duel began. The champion moved first, his huge blade sweeping down in a strike meant to cut the human in two. Aaron leapt aside, the ground shaking as the fiery weapon struck the stone, leaving a glowing scar. The heat of it brushed past him, the air burning against his skin. He countered quickly, his smaller sword flashing forward, but the blade struck, harmlessly against the champion's armor, leaving only a shallow mark. The giant laughed, the sound deep and thunderous. "You are quick, but you are weak." Aaron stepped back, eyes narrowed. He could not break the armor with a single blow. He would need patience, as he had with the beast, and cunning, as he had with the warriors. The champion struck again, a wide arc of burning steel. Aaron dropped low, rolling beneath the swing, his blade cutting at the back of the giant's leg. Sparks flew, but the armor held strong. The champion turned and kicked, the force sending Aaron stumbling back across the arena. The crowd gasped, many shouting that it was already over. But Aaron rose again, his chest heaving, his eyes still steady. He adjusted his grip and set his stance once more. The duel raged on. The champion's strikes were powerful, each one strong enough to break stone. Aaron's movements were fast, weaving in and out, dodging by inches, his blade striking in small, precise blows. Bit by bit, he searched for weakness. His arms ached, his lungs burned, but he did not falter. The crowd grew silent, every eye locked on the battle. The princess leaned forward, unable to look away. She saw how close each strike came to ending him, yet he always moved at the last instant, surviving where none should. Her hands gripped the rail so tight that her knuckles turned white. At last Aaron found what he sought. A joint in the armor, a narrow gap where the plates met at the champion's side. He struck quickly, his blade sliding into the weakness. The champion roared in pain, swinging wildly. Aaron barely escaped the burning strike, the heat searing his arm as he rolled away. The crowd erupted in shock. For the first time, the champion had been wounded. The giant's rage grew. His strikes came faster now, his voice booming with anger. Aaron could feel the heat of every swing, hear the crack of stone breaking under the blade's power. Yet he also knew that anger made the champion careless. He circled, forcing the giant to chase him, striking again and again at the weak points. Each cut was small, but together they grew. Minutes felt like hours as the duel continued. The ground was scarred with lines of fire, the air filled with dust and sparks. Aaron's body shook with exhaustion, but his mind stayed sharp. The champion grew slower with every wound, his armor dented, his breathing heavy. At last, the moment came. The giant lifted his blade high, both hands gripping it, ready to bring it down in a final crushing strike. Aaron waited, his breath held, his heart steady. As the blade fell, he moved, not back but forward, stepping inside the arc. His sword rose with all the strength left in him, striking deep into the gap beneath the champion's arm. The weapon cut true. The giant staggered, his massive blade falling from his hands. His roar shook the arena, but his knees gave way. With a final crash, the undefeated champion fell to the ground, the dust rising around him like a storm. For a moment, silence ruled. No one in the arena spoke. Thousands of eyes stared at the sight, unbelieving. The champion of Virel, the warrior who had never been defeated, lay broken at the feet of a human. Aaron stood over him, his sword dripping, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He did not raise his arms in victory. He only looked upward, his gaze locking on the princess. The arena went quiet, so quiet that the sound of his breathing could almost be heard. Then, as if the silence broke like glass, the crowd roared. Cheers, shouts, cries of disbelief filled the air. The sound shook the very walls louder than ever before. The princess rose slowly. Her eyes were wide, her heart racing. She had spoken her vow, and now the human had done the impossible. He had defeated the beast, the 6 warriors, and now the champion himself. He had earned the right no one else could claim. Her lips parted and her voice carried across the arena clear and steady. The champion has fallen. The human stands. The words echoed through the space, sealing the truth. Aaron had won. Yet, even in that moment of triumph, the princess felt something deeper stir inside her. Respect, yes, but also something warmer, something stronger. She pushed it aside for now, for the vow was not only personal, it was a bond that would change the course of her people. The human had proved himself, but the greatest test was yet to come, not of strength, but of choice. The arena was still shaking with the echoes of the great battle. Dust hung in the air like a thin mist, and the sound of silence spread across the endless rows of alien spectators. Aaron stood in the center of the battleground, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Sweat rolled down his face and his clothes were torn from the fight, but his spirit was unbroken. The champion, the strongest warrior of the alien world, lay defeated behind him, his massive weapon cracked upon the stone floor. For a long moment, no one moved. It was as if the entire galaxy had frozen, waiting for what would come next. The alien princess, seated high above the rest, rose from her throne. Her shining armor reflected the light of the arena, and her voice carried across the vast hall. She had said before that if the human could win the battle, he would win her as well. Now that moment had come, and the people waited to see if she would keep her word. The crowd burst into cheers, their voices shaking the walls of the arena. Some shouted in disbelief, others in excitement. For them, this was not only a spectacle but a turning point. Never before had a human defeated their most honored warrior. The idea seemed impossible, and yet it was now a truth they could not deny. Aaron lowered his broken shield and stepped forward. His body ached and every part of him screamed for rest, but he stood tall. He looked up at the princess, and their eyes met across the distance. Her expression was no longer cold pride. Instead, there was respect, and something else that only she understood. The princess descended from her seat, walking slowly down the grand steps that led into the arena. Every eye followed her. The guards did not stop her, for they too knew this was her moment to act. She crossed the battlefield until she stood before Aaron. The silence of the crowd returned. Her voice, though softer than before, carried a strength that all could hear. You have done what no other has done. You fought with courage, not with arrogance. You fought with heart, not only with power. I gave my word that victory would earn more than respect. My vow was clear. Win this battle, human, and you win me. The arena has seen it. The galaxy has heard it. I will not break my word. Aaron bowed his head slightly. He had not fought for wealth or glory. He had fought because he believed no human should be seen as weak or lesser. Still, he respected her words and the honor with which she spoke them. The crowd roared again, their voices filled with excitement and acceptance. Yet among the noise, Aaron raised his voice so that all could hear him. I did not fight to claim a prize. I did not fight to take someone's will. I fought because I believe that humans deserve respect. If I have earned your honor, then let it be so. But if I am to stand with you, let it be by choice, not by force. The princess studied him, her gaze steady and thoughtful. For a long moment, there was silence between them. Then she smiled, a rare expression that surprised even her own people. Your words show more strength than any weapon. You seek no chains, only respect. That is the spirit of a true warrior. Then let it be choice. I stand with you, and together we will shape what comes next. The declaration sent a wave of energy through the arena. Warriors who had once mocked Aaron now looked upon him with admiration. The elders of the Alien Council, who had doubted the promise, nodded with acceptance. Something new had been born in that moment, something greater than victory. Aaron felt the weight of the princess's words settle upon him. He knew this was not just about one battle or one promise. This was about the future. The people of the alien world had seen what a human could do. The galaxy had witnessed a bond formed not through conquest but through respect and honor. The princess turned to her people, lifting her hand to command their silence. When the noise faded, she spoke again. Today we saw the strength of a human. Today we saw that courage is not limited to one race. Aaron has proven what many of us refuse to believe. He has shown that spirit can rise above power, that wisdom can guide even the weakest hand to victory. Let this be remembered not only as his triumph but as the beginning of a new path. From this day forward, humans are not outsiders. They are allies, and their courage will stand beside ours. The announcement shook the arena even more than the battle had. For generations, humans had been seen as lesser by many races across the galaxy. Now one battle had shifted that belief. Now one man had changed the view of an entire people. The celebration began almost instantly. Music and shouts filled the air. Bright lights danced across the arena walls. The warriors who had once stood against Aaron now bowed their heads in respect. The princess stood beside him, no longer distant but as an equal. Together they accepted the cheers of the crowd. But for Aaron, the true victory was not in the celebration. It was in the quiet moment when he looked at the princess and saw trust in her eyes. He realized that this was not the end of a story, but the start of another. Challenges would come. Other worlds would test their bond. Not everyone in the galaxy would accept this new alliance. But for now, he had proven that humans could stand tall. For now, he had won not just a battle, but the chance for a future. Later that night, when the arena was empty and the stars shone above, Aaron walked with the princess along the great balcony of the palace. The world below was alive with celebration, but here, away from the crowd, the air was calm. "You kept your word," Aaron said quietly. "And so did you," she replied. "You fought with all you had. You gave your spirit to the fight, not just your strength. That is why you won." Aaron looked out at the stars. "The galaxy is wide. Many will not accept this easily. They will see me as a threat. They will see you as a traitor." The princess nodded. "Yes, but that is what makes this victory important. It is not only about today. It is about tomorrow. Together we will face what comes. Together we will show them what courage truly means." For a long time they stood there in silence, watching the endless sky. The bond between them was not built on power, but on choice and respect. It was a bond that would change not only their lives, but the fate of many. The arena would forever remember the moment it fell silent, waiting for the choice of a human and a princess. And history would remember the day that silence gave birth to a new future.